Welcome to the BackPageLead Vidcast, and I've got Ashley Browne with me, the editor. I'm Charlie Happell. Plenty going on in the world of sport, Ash, and this morning the person we used to refer to as sport's sort of most marketable and successful athlete, Tiger Woods, flew into town. Flew into Essendon Airport, and I think he's having a game at Victoria Golf Club this afternoon in preparation for the Australian Masters, and then has the big gala dinner. Reputation somewhat tarnished though since he last arrived on these shores.
Well, this is actually where it all started to unravel. It was when Rachel Yucatel was spotted in the foyer at Crown Casino that the enterprising US tabloids got to work, and it all unravelled sort of within a fortnight of him leaving our fair shores. Look, much more low-key obviously, Charlie, than last year. No helicopters buzzing overhead as he was tailing down the Tullamarine Freeway. I think he's here just to play golf and obviously collect a healthy appearance fee. But I wonder, question for you as the seasoned golf writer, I mean, he obviously is here, he's defending his title, what have you. Is there a bit of reconnaissance involved with regard to the President's Cup next year? Would he be slipping over the road to have a bit of a look at Royal Melbourne at some stage and start thinking about that?
Perhaps. I mean, he did play at Royal Melbourne in 1998 when the American team were beaten by the internationals. I think he knows it reasonably well, and he has played practice rounds at Royal Melbourne before when he came down to play at Huntingdale for the Masters. Yes, it's all part of the Sandbelt learning curve, I suppose. And this time last year, funnily enough, Craig Parry, the roly-poly Australian, took him on a kind of guided tour of Kingston Heath, and that really helped him, I think, win the tournament in the end. And as you say, it's the only tournament he has won in the last 12 months, so it's the only time he's defending a title in 2010. Ticket sales a little bit sluggish compared to last year, and I personally think the appearance fee paid to him is ridiculous, because you and I, Ash, are paying a good chunk of it through Victorian Major Events Corporation, and of course a lot of that ends up with IMG, his manager, who also run the tournament. So it's a very tangled web, this golf tournament business.
Yeah, and it gets back to the strength. I mean, so many good golfers coming out of Australia now. Do we need to if you put a field out purely, which is what the Australian Open's become, I guess, purely our best golfers who are dominating in America, winning regularly over there. I mean, it's a pretty good field. I'm not sure you need too many gun players from overseas. But having said that, with Villegas and Garcia in the field as well, it's a pretty good field.
Yep. Look, for what it's worth, I think Tiger's $3.50 at Tab Sportsbet, which is, I would think, pretty good odds. He certainly wasn't that this time last year. But it is Jeff Ogilvy's home course, knows it like the back of his hand. You'd expect him to be up there as well.
That's right, he might go one better than his footy team, Jeff Ogilvy.
Being, of course, St Kilda. Now, talking of footy, Ash.
That was the segue, Charlie.
Beautiful segue. You're a practised hand at this. James Hird's been in charge at Essendon for not terribly long, yet has really stamped his authority on the club today by sacking both Jared Atkinson and Jay Nagle. Nagle for turning up to training a bit out of shape, and Atkinson for apparently having not a terribly good attitude. I mean, he's making a statement, isn't he?
Well, I think a lot of new coaches do. Certainly back when he took over at Hawthorn, Alistair Clarkson did as well, put some guys on notice and stuff. But Hird had to do that. He had to, people wondered how's nice guy Jimmy Hird going to adapt to being the hard-ass coach. Well, he's done that by getting rid of 2 players today. Nagle gets a second chance. He can keep training and be put on the rookie list in about 5 weeks if he pulls his finger out, so to speak. Atkinson's gone, was basically told he was given the same opportunity, didn't turn up to training on Monday, so he is Gonski. Good move by Hird. I think he's been putting his stamp on the club pretty much since the day he got the job, and I think when Mark Thompson signs a dotted line at some stage, that will be another sign he's put his stamp on the club. But yeah, good move by James Hird. Lay down the law. It was probably a weakness of Matthew Knight's that he didn't do so. Really didn't do so in his time there.
You can afford to make a statement with players you don't rate too, can't you?
Yeah, well, we're looking at guys who are neither in their best 22 and probably far off it as well.
Okay, just another quick footy one. Cameron Bruce has left Melbourne, surprisingly to many. I think he probably saw the writing on the wall, didn't he, about their youth policy and what that meant for him?
Well, I think they cut James McDonald off at the knees pretty quickly, and I think you could see that happen in 12 months' time. And I think, from all reports, the contractual terms have been agreed to, which is why Dean Bailey was supremely confident last week that Bruce would be back for training this week. But I think it might have been the small matter of Bruce perhaps not getting a game towards the end of the season if the team was going really well, or if they've decided to play more of the younger players. So he's looked at that, and I suspect there is a club. I suspect it's a club in Browne and Gold have been hovering around.
But who else?
Yeah, that's right. You can come and play alongside David Happell, and they're going to get. He might go to Hawthorn with perhaps the lure of a premiership. There that he certainly won't have at Melbourne this year, and probably not before he retires. So, as the neighbours make a fair bit of noise, Charlie.
Yeah, well, it's the sounds of the city, Ash. We'll get the number 1 tram going past in a minute.
Yeah, but I think Bruce, it is a surprise move. Melbourne got to be a bit careful. They've got, they've marched a few of the veterans out the door. Brad Miller goes as well, so they're down now just to really
about
Brad
600 games of experience.
Yeah, so down to Brad Green now and a bunch of kids. Very good kids, but really just a bunch of kids.
Okay, finally, even if you're not a petrol head or kind of someone who tinkers with his car on the weekend, this weekend's Formula 1 Grand Prix in Abu Dhabi is a must-see. You've got 4 drivers, one of which is Australia's Mark Webber, vying for the title, all within a mathematical chance of winning. Fernando Alonso from Ferrari leads, of course, from Webber. Webber's Red Bull teammate Sebastian Vettel in 3rd place, and then Lewis Hamilton. I mean, I know you're not particularly one for tinkering with your overhead camshaft, Ash, on the weekend, but even you'll be tuning into this one, won't you?
I think it'll be fascinating. I think the tactics that Red Bull are going to apply are fascinating between Vettel, who is said to be the favourite son of their team. What happens if Webber's getting out to lead but Vettel can still win? I mean, how does it all work? The tactics will be absolutely fascinating. Do they say to the two guys, right, there's no tactics this week, you just race to win, and good luck to both of you, and we'll see you at the end of the race? I mean, how does this all pan out? That's why it'll be a really gripping sort of hour and a half around Abu Dhabi on Sunday evening our time. So, and yeah, as I said, not the biggest petrol head of all time, but this is one you wouldn't want to miss.
And I think it'll work in our favour TV-wise too, compared to last week, which was shocker. It started at 3 o'clock in the morning or something. So very TV-friendly as well. Ash, the last sport we should touch on quickly is cricket. The lead up to the first test.
Number 1 tram.
It is too. Someone ought to grease those wheels. We talked about Mike Hussey's non-inclusion in the Australian A team, which may have implications.
Yeah, look, it seems to suggest that they're going to go into the first test at least with a fairly close to settled squad as it's been. Hussey will probably get another chance to show his wares. What happens after that remains to be seen. They have said that the Australia A guys should be looking at this squad as an opportunity to this game against England, which is in Hobart next week, as their chance to press some claims for the second test. So if they're going to do horses for courses for the first test. The Gabba is a tricky week. I mean, Australia should do all right. The Gabba, it's with its steamy wicket and steamy, what have you. It could be a place for Australia to get an early advantage in Test match. I would think it'd be the most unfamiliar condition for England perhaps of the 5 tests.
Well, the speed in the wicket against Sri Lanka in that third one day really caught the Sri Lankans by surprise. I think it was really hard and fast, and Stark and Victoria's own Clint Mackay did particularly well.
Yeah, and Mitch Johnson, they say Mitch Johnson's the key to the Ashes. If he doesn't bowl well in England, bowls well in Australia, if he can get something going in Australia, he might be the wild card.
Not Nathan Horrocks?
Not sure about Nathan Horrocks, Charlie. I think there might be some better trundlers going around than young Nathan Horrocks. But we're going to look in the Ashes in more detail next week as it gets closer on BackPageLead.
We will. More footy, and also we'll look at the wash-up to Mark Webber's Grand Prix on Sunday night. Thanks for joining us, Ash.
Thank you.